Okay, let's go. So, quick little interview today. I'm a CEO of OX.FUN, Nico, and today I got Derteil on, I guess, known member of the Hyperliquid community, and has a nice group with a bunch of awesome guys. How you doing, Derteil?
Oh, GM, all good and pleasure meeting all of you guys here.
GM. All right, let's just jump right into it. I'd be interested to know then how you kind of like got into crypto. How did you get your start?
Oh, that's actually a funny story because I started as a med student, then I left my university after 2 years, and I started studying at the economic university in Warsaw. Then I met a guy who made quite a lot of money in crypto, and I was like, yeah, I'll dive into it. I deposited my first like $500 and started like looking into protocols. My first chain was Phantom, so I was never trading on Sexes. I just deposited into Phantom and was looking for the new protocols, was reading white papers, etc., etc. And as I was a gamer, I was super familiar with navigating in like Discord, Telegrams, and other like servers where you could get information, etc. So I was super active on Discord. On many protocols, and one protocol saw me answering questions for them, and before they could answer the question, and they just reached out to me with an opportunity to become a moderator. So I was like, yeah, why not? At this time, they offered me like 2K per month, and it was like amazing amount. It was a lot of money. As for someone who hasn't worked before, so yeah, I fully devoted into it. I started doing more than a mod. I started doing BD marketing and everything for them. I was reaching out to many protocols in Phantom, and at the peak, after 3-4 months of starting crypto, like from zero, I was working at 5 DeFi protocols as a BD, as a marketing, as a community moderator, because I was spending most of my time in front of the screens. So soon after I started my journey at university, finished it actually because I've been like full time working in crypto different protocols. And from this time on, I was like, yeah, it's my main hobby, passion, and I spend most of my day on in front of Twitter and various Discord groups to just get to know new projects, get some more information, and be more familiar with the trends that are constantly changing in the crypto space.
Yeah, hell yeah. Yeah, I think like the gaming crypto overlap is like so big. And also if you just come from a place of like passion and enjoyment and it's like you just keep going down the rabbit hole like learning stuff, I think that as long as you have the goal of like, look, you want to actually like make this into something, you want to make this into a career, you want to like make good money, like sky is the limit. Like it's actually a space with like so much opportunity. Do you have any thoughts around Phantom still these days?
Oh, currently Sonic, right?
Well,
Yeah,
now Sonic, yeah.
yeah, I'm watching Sonic super closely because I started on Phantom, so it's a natural way of things, I guess, that you are following the projects that you started with. I'm cheering up for them. I'm super bullish on Andre, and I know that when he wants to push something, he knows how to do it, and he does it well. Recently, I even wrote a guide for people how they can start trading on Sonic, how they can like collect points, what are points, what kind of points there are, because there are 3 different types of points you can get in there. And yeah, I'm looking forward to this ecosystem. But currently, if you look at DeFi Llama, after almost a month from launch, they're sitting at like 180 mil TVL, which is not really that much. So I guess unless they offer something crazy, there won't be many opportunities in this chain. But yeah, I'm cheering up for them, and I really hope that in the future some big protocol will launch there, and many people will start bridging and using Sonic as they used Phantom in the last cycle.
I think that like all L1 tokens, trades, like ecosystems have like a very good opportunity this cycle. I think that with ETH underperforming, Solana overperforming, that people are going to start looking for like the next Solana type plays, whether that be Sui, Phantom, whatever. So I think there's like definitely an opportunity there. You're speaking about points and like the different styles of points on Phantom. It's probably a good segue into Hyperliquid points and that being such a huge like narrative and like part of the space the last couple of months. Maybe go into a little bit how you kind of started with the Hyperliquid stuff, maybe some of the stuff around building your group and your community around that, and yeah, general strategies and how it kind of performed for you.
Yeah, so I've been always looking for EV positive traits in the market. Like I was always trying to be on the right part of the curve, right? It was never. It was. There were situations where there wasn't the case, and I was left curving like crazy with meme coins. But I was always trying to like look for EV positive strategies. So I realized that with points, you're basically getting rewarded for doing actions which are like neutral, and on top of it you get points. So it was calculated for myself, and first of these things that I found was blur. I was a blur farmer. I was like not really a whale, but I was farming a bit of points, and I was spending like most of my day farming those points, and they paid pretty well in season one and season two, and I really wanted to stay focused on farming season three, but I was completely wiped out from my ETH in January last year, when I was hacked and all of my money was gone. Like 99% of my net worth was just, um, gone. And then realized that I don't have ETH to start bidding. So I have to get this money from somewhere or start getting those points, because I'm losing money for not doing action, for not taking action, right? So I started working early this year, and all the money that I was making, I was putting in new protocol, Hyperliquid, because I used it for the first time and I realized that it's the best UI I've ever used in DeFi since I'm in DeFi. And I was a big perps trader also. I was trading on GMX, on DYDX, on many perpetuals platform, and I know how much it. Um, I know the struggle when there is a lot of action on chain and you want to make a transaction, but all of the MEV bots are making a transaction and have to pay like $50 gas fee, even on Arbitrum, right? This was the case with GMX. Um, so yeah, when I saw Hyperliquid, there is no like gas for opening position, for closing position. Navigation was like super easy for newbies. I was like, yeah, I want to have a chunk of this protocol. So basically, what I was doing was working for a company and then burning my whole salary on market making on Hyperliquid, and I had no clue about market making. So I was just making volume, losing money on making volume, and collecting points, because I truly believed that these points will be worth a lot. And then season two appeared, spot market, and became easier and easier to farm points if you were like super into this ecosystem. But it's another story. So how I started was this way: I just wanted to farm Blur. I didn't have enough money, fortunately, to farm Blur, and I started heavy with Hyperliquid.
Did you also take much trades? Obviously, like given like Hyperliquid is a perp platform and like the kind of like general risks associated with trading perps, there's obviously huge opportunity, but there can also be risks. Like at the end of the day, you're trading potentially with leverage. Were you trading, or were you just really like market making, putting orders in the books, like not necessarily wash trading, but kind of like trading a bit back and forth just to get the points?
Yeah, so I had part of my portfolio for trading, but vast majority I was just using for basically wash trading. But I was using limits for market making. I was looking for ranges, in which ranges which assets are like moving. So I was trying to put limits there, here and there. Right. It didn't work well because I was losing around like $100 for making 1 million in volume. But in comparison to other bots that other people were making, and we've been discussing it, I was performing quite well, because others were losing like $200, $300. And also at this time of Hyperliquid, they had negative rebates for limits for market makers. So it was good not to do market orders, but to do limits, because you've been paid to make them.
Very nice. And out of interest, what was your initial capital that you started with in the Hyperliquid ecosystem?
Oh, it was around like 6K.
Okay, awesome. And
Yeah.
how did yeah, it was pretty epic. How did your farming and like general experience with it go as it kind of like shifted into there being more information around like how the tokens were, not some tokens, but how the points were being distributed and people trying to figure out like where the distribution was going to be more so towards like volume or certain spot assets, stuff like that.
Yeah, so that was and still is one of the biggest mysteries around Hyperliquid. So, what's the points formula, right? I was trying to solve it since early stages. So, like January this year, I was looking for a formula, doing various trades to find out what's the best way to farm points. In season one, from my experience, the best way was to market make tokens without much volume. So, like, try to market make like Link, Sui, and other big tokens, but not BTC or ETH. But with spot season, everything has changed. We realized that vast majority of the points is going to the spot tokens, and you can get it for holding spot token or making a volume of a spot token. In my group, within my group, I organized a chat called Points Report, and people were sending their information, how much volume they did on perps, how much volume on spot, on which assets, and what assets do they hold. And we've been trying to solve it using AI and some like other guys, some quants, which were also in my group, to try to solve it, but nothing truly worked out. So we found up with like general rules for people. What should they do to maximize their points using not much capital, like up to 50K, let's say.
And in your case, was most of it manual, or were you kind of like also relying on some of the more like quant automated strategies from other guys in your group?
Oh, everything I was doing was based on the experience that we came up with the ideas that we came up with in my Discord group. But I was doing everything manual. So when we realized that you receive a ton of points for holding certain asset, I was just buying this asset and holding it. If then something has changed and they were like, hey, this week we haven't received points for holding, but we received a ton of points for making volume on this and this, then I started making volume on smaller caps, right? Um, for example, there was a token called, I believe it was RAG, and RAG went from like 100K market cap to 800K market cap or something like this. And I bought heavy, heavy, like I bought 3% of the token at 300K market cap. So I spent like $9K, and I received 4,000 points for just this one transaction. Yeah, it was pretty epic. I just bought it on in the first hour of the existence of the token, and I received 4,000 points for just buying it early and holding it through the whole week. And at all time high, this 4,000 points were worth around, I guess, $600K, I guess it would be at all time high. Only for 1 week, so it's pretty epic from 9K buy.
Yeah, but that's absolutely fucking insane. Looking back now that obviously, the points kind of distribution has happened and the token is out, are there any things that you think Hyperliquid should have done differently around their points?
Well, I don't think I can say that they could have done anything differently. They created like the biggest wealth effect in crypto history. They rewarded their users heavily, and to be honest, all of the actions that they've made, even that we thought they may have been wrong, they've proven to be right. So yeah, I don't have anything to comment on this point. I guess that, in my opinion, all what they did so far was done super great.
Hell yeah. Maybe just to backtrack a tiny bit regarding your group and Discord server effectively for that group, be interested to know like how you kind of got that started, how it, started to grow, maybe go into a little bit about Panda as well, the coin you kind of launched as part of it. That'd be really cool.
Yeah, 100%. So the story started on Hyperliquid Discord. That many people had many questions. They haven't like they didn't know much about how spot market works, what is HIP, how to buy those assets, because you had to change strict list to the all list. And I've been like answering those questions for a long, long time on Discord, on Hyperliquid's Discord. And then I realized that, hey, I'm spending like 15 hours a day responding to those messages, and with some of these people I will never have contact again. So maybe let's create a group. And at this period of time was 3-4 months after the hack, so I didn't have much money, and I thought like, hey, it may be a nice way to like mm, yeah, for the revenue, basically. If I get like 30 people, I can have additional 2K. And yeah, I started the group. The payment was $80 per month, and I gained my members pretty quickly. first 50 members within a week. So that was super nice to see. People were willing to pay, and at this period of time was a lot of money for me. So I also was super devoted, and I was spending all days in front of the screen. I wasn't leaving my apartment. That even my friends are laughing at me because I did quit smoking, because I didn't have time to like go outside and have a cigarette. So yeah, then I started like diving even deeper and deeper, talking to people who launch new tokens, talking to developers, to founders, etc. And I was trying always to find value for the members of my group. And what you can see is that people who joined from day one, I did run my group as a paid for 3 months. So in total, they paid like $240. But in total airdrops at all-time highs, they were worth around like 5K or 4K, only airdrops for the members of my group, because I was reaching out to founders, I was discussing with them, they were receiving promotion on my Discord, on my Twitter, etc. And all I wanted, I didn't want money to my pocket, I wanted the money to go to the members of my group. And it worked super great. Everybody heard about my group. Um, and yeah, even Rage, quite well established protocol, who was on Arbitrum for a few years, reached out to me. Also, the guys who were team members of Rage were members of my group. One of the first 10 members were guys from Rage. And they announced like quite big airdrop from my group. They haven't airdropped it at the end. It's a long story, but even big protocols realize that my group is something and they should join. So at the peak of the time, we had around like 250 members of my group. Most of them were super active. So I was waking up at like 7 a.m. and until 1 a.m. I was writing with the guys, like what's happening on Hyperliquid, how can we like get more points, what token should launch next, what should we do next to get even more points, etc., etc. The discussions were running like literally 24/7 on this Discord. So that was a super fun way to spend time, and also like super profitable for myself as well, because I was receiving like $80 each month from each member, and there were like 250 members at the peak. So I let the people do calculations themselves. But yeah, from if you go from zero, just put in a lot of hard work, and it will pay off. And also from the other perspective, when it comes to the Panda token, why did I launch Panda token? Because we realized that holding spot assets gives you boost in points. So you get points basically for holding asset. So I wanted members of my group to get as many points as possible, and I decided to like create a meme coin, which I will just airdrop to people in my group, and they can sell it, they can buy it, whatever. I wasn't advising them to buy. I was like, hey, I just airdrop you this token and just hold it, and you will get additional points, and you will see these points will be worth something. So every single member of my group, I had their addresses, they received the airdrop of Panda, and the whole purpose of Panda was to just hold it until the end of the point season and get rewarded. And if you, as you can see, like 1 point at all-time high was worth like $180. So even if my airdrop gave them like 1 point, they received basically their money back. So yeah, that was pretty crazy. But it's thanks to Hyperliquid Foundation that they made it happen, and they created it so well that the airdrop became so big.
Yeah, that's super awesome. I mean, I would advise like anyone to start building some groups, like even just, privately with friends. Like I think you're always going to get further as a group of smart people, constantly like improving each other, learning, like all this kind of stuff. I'd be interested to know your current thoughts around spot tokens now on Hyperliquid, things like HFun and HFun launches, Cabool's trading them, the ones that are surviving, stuff like that.
Yeah, so HFun itself is a like super good token in my opinion, only because it's backed by Laura, and Laura is a super good builder. I had the opportunity to meet him in Brussels when we actually organized with Max from Hyperactive the first Hyperliquid meeting, and there were like only 8 people in there, so it was quite funny because there was literally no hype around like Hyperliquid. Only 8 people appeared on the first meeting. But yeah, then I met Laura, and he seemed to be like genuine builder and super cool guy, focused on his job, and he made a lot of stuff, starting from the sniper up to like H pump. But currently, most of the stuff that is happening on Hyperliquid, in my opinion, is to extract the money because they've seen the success of Hyperliquid. They know that people have a lot of money and they just want to have a chunk of it because they're late. So we've seen already like many rags, many scams on HPump. We see also good projects trying to launch when EVM goes live, but currently it's just I would say waiting phase. We need to wait for EVM. We need to see which product is prepared well during this waiting time, which product people want to use, which product has better like marketing utility, etc. And then we'll be able to say yeah, what are my thoughts, because currently it's just a waiting time. I don't have much thoughts about any protocol. I just want to see it in action and then decide whether I want to like invest in this project, use this project, or be affiliated with it like in any way.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of opportunity in the H1 launches at the start, just because like there was such a wealth effect from the kind of hype launch. But then I think what's happened is that because the actual users of H1 is still quite a small pool of actually quite like smart users in general, it basically just becomes like a super PvP playground for them to kind of launch these coins, like effectively PvP each other and try to extract money. Whereas like something like Pump Fun, which has like so many users, becomes much more PVE, like the pie grows much bigger. So even though there is like a subsection of very smart and talented traders, there's enough like general money in the system for a lot of people to win and it to be like extractive in a slightly different sense to how H-Fun is at least right now.
Yeah.
Um, I'd be interested to know as well, since as part of your group and also as just your general interest in Hyperliquid ecosystem right now, I know you're speaking to a ton of people who are building new projects on Hyperliquid. What kind of stuff are you interested or looking into or bullish on that's already kind of in discussion that's out right now, and maybe stuff that's coming up on the horizon?
Yeah, so it's a good question because after I think week or two since Hype TGE, I had like a ton of DMs. I think around 1,000 DMs on Telegram from various people, but also there were quite big protocols asking me to connect them with Hyperliquid team. I received like more than I guess 15 messages from quite decent protocols to connect me with them. I forwarded only 5 because I know that team is like super busy. But there are many big players coming into Hyperliquid. I don't want to leak them, but there are projects with like hundreds of thousands of followers on Twitter already. Most of them are having existing platform on various chains and just want to add Hyperliquid. Some of them haven't launched yet and want to launch on Hyperliquid. But what I'm looking the most at early stages is basic DeFi infrastructure. So I'm really looking forward for a native stablecoin on Hyperliquid. I'm looking forward to the DeFi space, like lending protocols, maybe some yielding Ponzi where you deposit LP and you receive X token and it creates value out of nowhere only because you are depositing LP in there. These math things like interest me the most, where I can calculate, hey, how much do I receive, how much can it be worth, etc., etc. Some like also super brain stuff, like tokenizing HLP. That's something what I'm really, really looking forward. If I could use my HLP position as a margin for something, or I could like deposit my HLP position and borrow money against it, that would be super great to have because that would allow people to basically leverage the HLP. And it's a super, super interesting thing if you think about it. Um, yeah, but from the other things which are not like that much math related, I'm really looking forward to NFTs because with you build communities around NFTs, and my biggest like hobby in crypto is be within the community, manage community, talk to the people, etc. And I'm super curious which community will win this at the early stages because there will be NFT fights. The projects will be fighting for users to bring them to their community, and there are already a few big communities. Like if you look, there is a Peep community, there's Catball community, there's Per community, there's Hype Stakers community. So there are many communities. I guess that most of them will have their NFTs. Some of them already announced it, some of them haven't yet. And also like Per NFT. which is currently valued at, I don't know, like 40K, 50K, I guess, um, in the OTC market. So these are the things that I'm looking for, mostly DeFi related, but also the NFT space.
Did you see Hypio launch recently?
Hypio, yeah, I did. To be honest, I haven't minted it because I was like, yeah, it's on base. I'm not bridging my funds anywhere, I'm just sitting on Hyperliquid. And then I was just sidelined looking at Hypios going to like zero point 0.5 ETH, I think, at all time high. And then one of my colleagues of mine from Hyperliquid Trenches, the 800 retard, Adair, I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he wrote a famous thread about $800 per point. He just reached out to me in DMs and he was like, "Hey man, I saw on Twitter that you don't have any hype. You want to buy one at 50% discount?" I was like, "Okay, if I can pay you on Hyperliquid, then okay." And I just sent him money on Hyperliquid. He sent me the hype. So right now I'm the holder. I don't plan to sell because the community is growing pretty quickly. And yeah, we may receive some nice airdrops, or it also may become a nice community. So I'm holding one Hypio, but I wasn't really paying attention into it at early stages.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're planning to bridge to Hype EVM when it launches. Fun Remedio style beta. From what I've seen, like, I also have a couple and have been interacting with the community. Like, I think there's just a bunch of like, very smart and, engaged and excited, people in that group, which is good to see. Um, what are your thoughts around the next season potentially of points for Hyperliquid?
So this is the topic of discussion of every spaces that we have on Twitter whenever they are on about Hyperliquid. So my personal opinion is that we will have another season of points, just to encourage the people to use the EVM. And it will be like EVM season where you will receive the most of the points for using EVM, making transactions. The volume will count, the amount of transactions will count, etc. But you will also receive partly points for trading perps and also holding spot. So similarly to season two, in season one you were only receiving points for perps. Then in season two you were receiving small portion of points for perps and a lot for spot. And right now it will be like, I guess, 85% of points will go to incentivize EVM activity, and the other 15% will go to perps traders and spot holders. They've proven already that they can do quite a big airdrops. So I don't think they will resign from this idea of having points, because if they do, they can encourage many people to like start trading, and they will say, "Hey, this time I will not fade this opportunity, right? I will be farming those points." And also, my second guess is that they will not delete current points. So you will have your points that you had already, and you will just farm new points on top of them. So similarly to Per, you were receiving Per airdrop in season one, but your points were still in there. And this way, you incentivize early people who are early, because they still have points, but there will be another signing period at the end of season three. That's my guess. So you will have to sign terms of use of the platform, and if you won't receive the airdrop. So you need to stay active in the ecosystem. You need to look at the announcements, follow announcements, etc., to be rewarded with the airdrop. And I think that's a super cool way to do it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Something you said before, which I think is funny as well. You were like, I don't want to move any of my assets basically outside of Hyperliquid. So if I can't pay for it on Hyperliquid, I'm not interested in doing it. Do you really like not hold anything in any other ecosystems?
Well, I do hold quite a lot in real life ecosystem after the hack, because I learned my lesson not to hold everything on chain. I hold a bit of stables on the centralized exchanges, but it's mostly to be withdrawn to real life. But the rest is basically HLP and Per and Hype, obviously. So I don't really have anything outside of Hyperliquids, maybe only NFTs. So I have like a lot of banners, melodies, and and Skyzo posters. So aside of NFTs, no, everything is on Hyperliquid.
Yeah, no, I'm bullish on all the kind of like Milady, Remedio, Schizo posters. There's like a bunch of really good guys in all those communities. I completely forgot about your hack situation. Do you want to maybe speak about that a little bit, just so maybe people can learn from it?
Yeah, I hate talking about it, but I think it's a it's a pretty nice story when people hear it. So basically, I was in crypto since 2021, early 21, and I was trying to grow my net worth, learn stuff, etc., etc. And yeah, I was just working, having jobs, collecting this money, learning how to trade, gathering as much as I can. And then in January last year, I was hacked. So I was wiped out 2-0 because my seed phrase was leaked. At this time, someone may say, "Hey, why didn't you use hardware wallet, right? Like Ledger or Trezor?" But as I mentioned before, I was farming Blur. So farming Blur with Ledger was like super tough if you wanted to like place a bit, withdraw a bit, place a bit, withdraw a bit. So I was doing like 3-4 transactions per minute, and if I had to like confirm each of them on Ledger, it would be like pain in the ass. So I decided to take a risk, store it all on one seed, and just farm a lot of points. Because hey, for 3 years no one hacked me. Then status quo. No one will hack me in the future. But yeah, it happened. So I started from basically from zero. All that I managed to save, because he was hacking me in real life. I was spending most of my day in front of Blur, so I realized like once again, hey, where are my ethers from Blur? And I remember this day because there was a crash. It was 3rd of January, and there was a crash on Bitcoin from like 48 to like 41 or something, and then everything was like stacked, like MEV transactions were going on, the gas skyrocketed, etc. And this fact saved me a little bit of money because the hacker started sending transactions from my wallet, but the gas was so high that they couldn't go through. So what I did was try to set higher gas for the same transaction, same nonce of the transaction, and send it to my wallet. And in this way, I saved 17 banners. I don't know if you're familiar with Milady banners. They were at like 0.04 ETH at this time. I saved a little bit of Rollbit token because I was also holding like, but it was like 2K dollars of this, because he stole most of the ether like within the first second he started the hack. So I managed to save like 3K, and that was the initial money that I started trading on Hyperliquid, because I haven't sold any banners, so I still hold those 17 banners that I saved from the hack.
How much did he manage to steal? Basically, how much did you have in there before he hacked you?
Yeah, it was around like 6 figures, low 6 figures.
Damn. So you did up to low six figures, obviously from like from nothing, university to with like $500 in crypto to six figures to zero after the hack, and then like back over to like I'm sure like well over seven after Hyperliquid and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy if you think about it. Like the story, literally, like from 0 to above 7 fakes in less than a year. So it's a crazy story, but I think it's motivating for people, because also I received the airdrop of Hyperliquid that big because I had the group, and from the group I had the money to reinvest in Hyperliquid, right? So just put a lot of hard work. I was working also a lot during the last year in many protocols to just earn some money and put this money into Hyperliquid. So my thing is like become, I think, maybe not good in something, but try to know something as good as you can. Learn why certain platforms may succeed, and once you think that this platform is better than others and this platform has airdrop, just lock yourself in your apartment, order food for like the next 4 months via catering, and just don't leave your apartment, and do everything you can to farm as many of those points as possible.
And then you'll hit seven figures in 1 year from zero.
Yeah, there is a big chance you will. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm bullish on that. I'd love to go into some stuff around like hype EVM versus Solana, like all this other stuff. But to be honest, like I know your answer is that those things are probably all great as well, but like you'd rather focus on your niche where you feel like you have edge and like you've already done so much in this ecosystem. And I think that like regardless of where people think the hype token price is going to go to and like all these other things, I think that it's still going to be a big enough pie that you and like other people who are very focused on the Hyperliquid system will like profit very well. If you want to say anything on hype EVM versus other things, feel free. But there's probably honestly not too much to say.
Yeah, I was talking with Hyperliquid guys in Bangkok on the last Dev Connect, I guess, about the EVM, and we had a consensus. There's not much to be said right now. We need to see what applications launch there, how it works, how good it really is. Because currently, I haven't used the testnet. I used for some protocols, but I haven't navigated into it like on daily basis. So we need to see it in action. We need to see how good teams are building it. What's special about the Hyper EVM? But after seeing what the team have done in the last 2 years, I think we will be surprised how good Hyper EVM will be. So not much to say, but I have big expectations.
Do you know if the kind of current state of the Hyperliquid team? Because I think like I was always very impressed when I heard that for I think most of the time up to the hype token launch, the team was really like less than like 10 guys. It was like 5 to 8 guys, something like that. A couple devs and Jeff and Julian from the BD team. Do you know if it's they've scaled things up much more now?
I have no clue about it. I just heard rumors. So I think the best person to answer it would be Xulian or Jeff or any team member if you ask them to come here and speak with you. But I heard that there are 10 people within a team. Previously, I heard some rumors also about 5 to 8. But in Singapore, Hyperliquid organized their first event for invited people. And there was only Xulian, as far as I remember. There was Jeff and there was Aliens Inc. So my guess was that these are 3 team members which are responsible for like community marketing and stuff around it, and the rest are devs. And I heard some rumors about 5 devs. I don't know if they're true, but if we talk about rumors, that's what I heard. And also there is another moderator, Supreme Mod is his nickname, I guess. So it would count that there are 9 people in the company, but these are only my like estimations, and rumors that I heard.
Yeah, crazy impressive. Honestly, love to
Crazy.
see it. I think Jeff is a amazing founder. He's doing a great job. I think regardless of any hate or things that people have against him, you kind of can't fade the fact that like what he's built and what Hyperliquid's been able to achieve.
Yeah, and
Maybe
that
we
was
can
also
close with go on, go on.
yeah, regarding the founders. That was also the reason why I started farming Hyperliquid. It's not only about the platform, but you need to do a research about the team as well. So when I read the story of Jeff, how he met with Aliensing, how it all started, where he used to work before, how HLP works because of him, and etc. etc., then I was just this is the place I want to be this year, and I want to farm because this. I believe in this kind of people, and I advise everyone here who still hasn't read much about Hyperliquid to go and dive a bit about the team, about their background, and yeah, what made them be so successful.
And maybe yeah, we can close on what are you kind of working on now? What are you mainly focused on? What your time is split between, and any other closing thoughts or advice you have for people.
Yeah, so currently, since like 4 months, traveling the Asia, I was locked in my apartment for like 8 months almost. So I really needed the time to like spend some time outside. So I'm traveling. I've been to Singapore. I visited you at your office in Taiwan, in Japan, Thailand, Bali, like many places. And Asia is beautiful. But when it comes to work, I'm working at another perpetual exchange. I started working there like 3 months ago. I'm helping them a bit with marketing and with the community. I guess that if people dive enough, they will find where I do work if they're curious. But yeah, so this is what I'm doing for my work. And aside of that, I'm still super active on Twitter.
Is it OX.FUN?
I wasn't
I'm
good enough, to be hired at Oxfam. But
It's not that you weren't good enough. You just weren't degen enough. That was the problem.
yeah, but aside of this, I spend most of my day, like literally 80% of my day, on Discord talking to the people from my group, because currently my group is free to join and there are OGs from the times when it was a paid group still active. So we have conversations about EVM. I do talk to founders who build on EVM. I do have like 2 calls per week where I discuss with people who want to launch on Hyperliquid, and I just advise them what was the story behind Hyperliquid, how it all started, what's the community, who should they ask for help, etc. There is also, I would like to do a big shout out to Hyper Collective, because this is just a bunch of guys who are helping protocols launch on Hyperliquid and start on Hyperliquid, similarly to me. So and they're doing a super good job. And yeah, that's basically what I'm doing. So just working and looking for new opportunities with EVM.
Awesome. Okay, well, thank you very much for coming on. Super awesome to chat. I'll put all your links and stuff so people can go check you out on Twitter, explore your group and stuff like that as well. But yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much. It was a pleasure talking to you, and I hope that this conversation was at least a bit interesting for our listeners.
I think it was more than interesting. Hopefully, kind of inspirational for some people, and I'm sure they probably learn a couple of things as well.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Have a good one.